So definitely would have liked it another way, but I'm hoping this situation, I'm hoping something comes from it and we can dig into this now. I think we need to have like rules that are just like, this is how you play disc golf when you're playing on a disc golf pro tour event.
Well, I mean,
and get away from hole specific rules, because I'll give you another story. Ready for this one? This is on hole 7. So the big par 5 that used to be 2 fairways, but now there's only 1 fairway on the right. If you threw it in the water, you had to play. You either had a re-tee or you got drop zone from the FPO tee pad.
Okay.
Those were your 2 options. Someone threw it in the water, okay, and then called provisional from the MPO tee pad. They re-teed, called provisional,
okay,
and then went up and threw another shot from the FPO tee pad.
Okay.
And took the FPO tee pad's throw. You can't do that.
Why?
If you call provisional, the only reason you're calling a provisional is because you are thinking that the way you're playing it is incorrect.
Yeah.
So you say provisional in case, well, obviously you say provisional too if you like throw a shot and you think it's out of bounds. You don't know if it's in or out.
Yeah.
And if it's, stroke and distance, you call provisional, and then you get up there and you see whether it's in or out. But if you don't know where, like if you don't know, if there's a drop zone or whatever, if you throw from the MPO tee pad, you re-tee essentially, and you call provisional, you can't take the other shot.
Well,
because what you're throwing right there is correct. Oh, we got bots in the chat.
Yeah, I just noticed it popping up over here while you were talking. But
Silas, I blocked them for you, Silas.
There you go. So, for instance, back to what you did on hole 2, right? If you would have called a provisional and then played from the FPO tee pad, and then discovered that what you did from the FPO tee pad was right.
No, but you can't. What you would do in that situation, Hunter, is I would go up to the FPO tee pad.
Yeah.
Call provisional and throw that shot.
Oh, so they basically threw a tee shot.
And then go back to the MPO tee pad, because I know I can play the MPO tee pad. I know I can always re-tee. So you do the thing that you don't know if you can or can't do. Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying?
Somewhat. Not fully. Because does the order? I guess in the PDGA rulebook, the question is, does the order
does matter?
In the rulebook, it matters.
Because the way this person did it, he was able to pick and choose which one he wanted to play from. You can't throw 2 shots and then pick, I'm going to play this one. You can't call provisional on a shot that you can play from. You can always re-tee. So if you don't know if you don't know if you can go to a drop zone, like if you don't know if a drop zone exists, or if you don't know, then you need to go to the place that you don't know whether or not you can play from, throw from there and call provisional and say, if I can play from here, I'm going to, because this is more advantageous to me. If I can't play from here, then I'm going to play where I know I can.
Well,
from
typically
the MPO pad.
The provisional, what should have happened is both should be played all the way out, and then you take it into the TD. Like, that's the point of a provisional. Because then, like, it doesn't.
Which one?
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what's thrown first or second.
But when okay, so what score is he taking? If he got a 7 from re-teeing and he got a 5 from the drop zone, what score does he take?
The 5.
Okay, if he got a 5 from re-teeing and a 7 from the drop zone, what score is he taking?
That's up to the TD, because like that's where it's weird. A situation like that is weird.
Why did he take the lower score in the first situation?
Because he could. You have the option. You have both options.
You can't.
But like the FPOT, you don't know if that's an option or not.
you can't pick and choose what disc you want. You can't throw 2 discs and say, well, this one was a better shot. So
But that's not really what you're doing, though, because like
Yes, it is.
It's exactly your situation, right? Back to hole 2. It's exactly your situation. If you would have said, "Hey," like, because technically, if someone has a drop zone, the PDJ rule is there has to be or if someone has a Mando, there has to be a drop zone. That's the PDJ rule.
Whichever one I would have thrown first, I would have taken Hunter.
But I'm saying,
So, okay,
if you
let's
didn't
go
know,
my situation.
if you
Let's
didn't
go
know
my
it was a drop
situation.
zone, though, if you had no idea that Red Sea was a drop zone,
No, let's do my situation. Let's do my situation exactly.
Okay.
So my situation of where in our situation we're like thinking like I think the FPO should be a drop zone, but
Okay.
we're looking at it and it doesn't look like that. If I would have gone up to the FPO T pad and said provisional, I'm going to play from here because it's easier and I want to play from here if I can, but if I can't, then that's why it's a provisional. And I throw the provisional straight into a tree and it drops.
Yeah.
And then flash forward, I play that out and I take a 10. So after I throw the shot straight into a tree, I walk back to the MPOT pad, right? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw this shot in case I can't play that one. And I ace it to get a 3. I'm taking the 10 because I called provisional saying if I can't play from here, then I have to go back here and play. But I could play from there, so I take the 10.
So I guess
now,
in the scenario of the other person.
So rewind.
Yeah.
So rewind. I'm going to do, that's how you should play it. Now I'm going to do it the scenario that this person did it, which is the incorrect way of where they are playing from the spot that they know they can play from. And they say provisional and they throw from the MPOT pad. Okay. And they take a 10 and then they go up to the FPOT pad and they ace it for a 3. They still get the 10. Even though they could have played for the FPO, they still take the 10 because in that scenario, you can play both ways. And in that scenario, you can't pick and choose which one you want to play from the lower score. You have to go off the first disc in play that was correct, which was the MPOT pad.
So I think it would have
live.
When rubber meets the road, the issue here is they just called provisional on the wrong throw. Because basically what they should have said was, hey, I'm going to take a provisional from the FPOT pad, but to save time, I'm going to go ahead and re-tee here like I know I can, and then take my provisional from the FPOT pad. Because that's basically what they did, but they called provisional on the MPOT pad. Because if they would have done that, I just read the provisional rule. Basically, a provisional is an extra throw that's not added. If it's not ultimately used, the player must inform the group they're throwing a provisional, and then it explains why you use a provisional. But basically, I think if you call a provisional, you're saying like, hey, I'm calling a provisional because if I can take the red T pad, I'm going to. So basically, if you call the provisional on the FPOT pad, then no matter what happens, you don't have a choice to take the other one. You don't.
But you have to throw that first, though.
It doesn't say that.
Okay, now hear me out here. How does that make any sense?
I think
hear me out. No,
yeah.
Ready for this situation. I throw it in the water.
Okay.
We're gonna go back to hole 7 again because that's the easiest one to think about. I throw it into the water. We might have just figured out that this rule just makes no sense then. I throw it in the water. So now in my head, I'm like, I just want to re-tee here because I like the re-tee here way more than the drop zone. I'm thinking that in my head. I haven't said that to anyone. I'm thinking that in my head. I throw the next shot in the water because by what you just said, I can wait to say provisional on the other shot.
No.
What are you talking? So I have to say provisional on the MPOT pad?
I'm saying you're like saying, hey, I'm going to walk up. I'm going to throw a provisional from the FPOT pad, but just to save time, I'm going to throw from here and then walk up and take my provisional. But like I'm throwing the provisional either way.
When do you have to say that? When do you have to say that?
You have to say it when
But you're not saying provisional when you throw. So what was the throw that you just threw?
The one you know that you can do. Because like that's typically a provisional is like a provisional.
So how are you not playing that one? How are you not playing that one? You just threw a disc that you know for a fact you can play. Shouldn't you always do the thing that you don't know you can do or not first?
But then what's the point of a provisional at all? Because like a lot of provisionals are like, my disc might be in bounds up there or not. I'm going to call a provisional and throw the one I know I can play either way right here. And then if I'm in bounds, I'll play from that.
Because in that situation, you're saying I'm throwing this disc, not knowing my situation. That's way different. You know your disc is already out of bounds.
Yeah. But you don't know where to go.
You don't.
Can I go to the red tee or not? You don't know.
You don't know where to go.
Yeah.
But you know 100% that you can re-tee. You know 100% that you can re-tee. My issue is if you throw from a spot that you know 100% that you can throw from, how do you distinguish which one you play? Do you play from which? Do you always just play from?
Well, if you call a provisional,
spot?
No, if you call a provisional, it's saying the intent of a provisional is saying if I can do this, this is what I'm going to do. So when I call a provisional, that's what I'm saying.
I literally just asked you if two people did the same exact thing. Okay?
Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong in that answer. No. You take the red tee both times. A provisional, the way they messed up was that both scores, when you call a provisional, need to be played all the way out. Both scores, no matter what, need to be played all the way out. You go to the TD, you say, hey, I took this provisional. I played one from the red tee, one from the tee. Could I go from the red tee? If they say yes, you take the one from the red tee every time. You have to. You called a provisional and you played that. That's what you're saying is like, hey, I'm calling a provisional because I don't know if I can do this, but I'm playing it because if I can, this is the score I'm taking. So if you re-tee and you take a 5 or 6 from the long tee, then you played a provisional and you took the red tee and you took a 10 from there, then you have to take the 10.
That makes sense.
Because the provisional is saying, my intent is to play from the red tee. I don't know if I can. But a provisional, you have to play them both out until the TD comes up and explains to you why you can't, or you come up there and you go, I am in bounds. Those are the only way you don't play a provisional all the way out.
I'm thinking, though, in this situation, I'm thinking that this person ended up picking and choosing what drive they wanted to play.
So that would technically be illegal because
obviously when they walked up there and saw that they could take the drop zone there or whatever. I think what you just said is correct. Of where if you don't know where you play, if you don't know where you okay, hear me out. I think what you just said is the right way of doing it.
Yeah.
Of where if you're basically saying if I can play up there, I'm basically taking that score no matter what.
Yeah. So the second you know you can play up there, whether it's on the hole or after the round, that's the score. That's the one you're playing.
My point now, because I think we both agree that I was wrong in I still think if you can, you probably do the throw if it's close enough. You probably do the one that you don't know for sure whether or not you can play that way as provisional. And then you do the one that you know for sure you can do second. I feel like that is ideally what you're supposed to do for the most part. But in a scenario like this where the walk is super far, it doesn't really make, like you said, it doesn't really make sense to walk all the way to the FPOT pad, throw, say provisional, and then walk all the way back and throw again. My point now, though, is how many people play that incorrectly. Like we just talked about a bunch. A bunch of people in the chat still think what I say is right. So I just don't think the rules necessarily like explain that well enough to, and like even you were confused at what scores the person should take initially, right? So my question is like, how many times does someone take a 10 and a 5 and they just end up just getting to decide which? They're like, well, I could have played both, so I guess I'll just take the 5.
I mean, if that happens,
this goes back. But this goes back to my whole point of like, I think we need to have rules that are just like super simplified and it's the same exact way how to play all the time.
Well, I mean, it should just be, it technically is. Like you were teeing from OB there on that hole. So you had to have a drop zone. It's in the rules. There wasn't an option.
No.
Your next lie cannot be OB in any situation.
But no, we've played holes like that.
The only way is if they get a waiver. Like hole 17 at USDGC, then that's a waiver.
No, I'm saying I'm trying to remember if we've played holes where are like that, but if you cross, you take it from where you cross in bounds.
So that's like normal OB rules, because this is just playing like an island, is what's going on.
Yes. That's what. Yes.
An island PDJ has to have a drop zone. That's why USDGC like has always been an X major, because they refuse that rule with hole 17. So like there are standard sets of rules. So like, but really the issue in that situation is like, and in your situation is the T signs should have the correct rules and clearly stated. So I think there should never be a reason for a provisional in either of those situations, because it should just be like, what do? I look at the T sign. Okay, I can go to the drop zone or I can re-tee. The only provisional that would come up is be like, why can't I take my disc up there? Okay, I'm gonna just throw a provisional from the drop zone in case I can and take my disc from up there how I think I should play it. That should be like the only time provisional comes in.